Hi guys, this is Troy from Australian Guitar Channel and welcome to this week's video. 5 pieces of advice that I wish I had have taken when I was learning an instrument. Now, of course, my instrument is guitar, but I think this really applies to learning any instrument. Alright, so stick around and take a look, guys. I think there's some great content and a lot of things that are going to help a lot of you out there. Alright? Okay, first on my list, and one of the most important things that I was told that I didn't necessarily always do, was practice with a metronome. So one of the reasons music sounds so good to us is the beat or the groove, or what musicians call the pocket. So to create that groove and that sense of time, we need to be practicing with a metronome all the time. Literally just setting up a metronome, setting up a beat that you're comfortable with and playing anything, and having the metronome play over and over in the background will help your playing tremendously. Most musicians do have a tendency to push the beat or rush or alternately drag, that is, play too slowly. And that playing with musicians who cannot get that beat right and have that internal rhythm can be really frustrating. If you want your music to sound good and you want to play better, playing with a metronome is really important. You know, one of the reasons a song like Superstition by Stevie Wonder sounds so fantastic is because Stevie Wonder had such a solid sense of time within him. Okay, another thing that I've learnt over the years that I didn't apply early on when I started out learning an instrument is to practice in small increments. One thing I suggest when I'm teaching students how to play guitar is not to treat practicing like going to the gym. That is, to set aside half an hour or 1 hour of the day to playing guitar. No. Rather, what I would suggest doing is have your instrument in somewhere that you're always going to be. For example, in the lounge room, and have it sitting, say, on the couch next to you while you're watching television or while you're eating some food. When you finish the food, when you finish watching television, you might pick the instruments up, do 5-10 minutes here or there, get bored of it, put it down again, pick it up later in the day. Those little 5-10 minute increments will build up over time, and they can be a really good way of practicing rather than, say, putting the instrument away in the cupboard and setting aside half an hour or an hour, and that can make it more of a chore rather than something enjoyable. So, practicing in small increments, 5 to 10 minutes here or there, is a really great way to improve. The next little piece of advice that I wish I had have taken on much earlier on is that every musician, everyone who's learning an instrument, is running their own race. This is not a competition. So when learning an instrument, it's worthwhile to remember that this is not the Olympics we're competing in here. We're not measuring ourselves up against anyone else. A lot of my students will ask how they're doing compared to everyone else, or how they're doing for someone who's been learning for X amount of time. Forget it. This is art we're doing here, and it's all about improving your own strengths and weaknesses and enjoying yourself. Guitarists particularly can become obsessed with technical ability and treat it as some type of competition where they're competing against the fastest other guitarists. Let me put it to you this way. When you're listening to music by, say, the Beatles versus music by, say, Queen, no one's sitting there comparing to Beatles to Queen. I like the Beatles better. They were better musicians than Queen. Vice versa. Brian May was a better guitarist than George Harrison. We're not. We take music on its own merits. Try and treat your own music that way. And you're only competing against yourself and competing against the musician you were last week. The next thing I wish I had have learned a little earlier on is the importance of being kind to yourself while you're learning. One thing I've noticed teaching adults versus teaching children is just how much adults judge themselves and their abilities way too harshly. Most adults, when they're learning to play an instrument, will pretty much decide that they suck within the first week or two of playing. And that kind of level of judgment is just ridiculous. I generally say to most people I teach, try and give it at least 6 months before you make any formal decisions about whether you want to continue. Okay, naturally you're not going to sound amazing in your first lesson. It takes time. Remember, learning an instrument is more of a marathon, not a sprint, and I often suggest to people filming themselves playing their instrument after, say, their first lesson, and then watch that same video in 6 months' time so they can really see how much progress they've made. Remember, it's very hard to see your own progress when you're the person on top of your own playing, watching yourself every day. You're really not going to see all the progress you're making. Chances are the progress that you're going to see in that 6 months' time will amaze you. And the last thing that I certainly could have done more of when I was learning, and I suggest to everyone, is learning to read music. Now, I suggest this for multiple reasons. If you want to understand music theory or the mechanics of learning music, learning to read is a really great place to start. It's going to teach you the fundamental basics of bars, notes, what a treble clef is, time signatures, and all of these things can be learnt in really a matter of weeks. So buying yourself, say, a little kind of Hal Leonard note reading book, no matter what instrument you're learning, and you can get those from the internet. Now, bear in mind, you do not have to reach concert pianist level with your note reading, but even a few lessons or a few pages into, say, a Hal Leonard reading book will really make a great deal of difference to just some of those fundamentals that are going to help you with your learning. The concept of bars of music, keys, key changes, and scales can really be learned in a matter of months. And learning those things is really going to help with your further learning when it comes to learning music. Okay, and there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. That comes from 30 years of playing guitar and 30 years of playing music, so I hope that's helped for you. As always, share, like, and subscribe by hitting the button, and I will see you in the coming weeks on my next videos. Bye!